Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, as-salatu was-salamu ala ashraf nabiyin. We start in the name of Allah, and peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his companions, till the day of judgment. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Delegate Rasoul. We really appreciate you having you with us on the podcast. Just for the viewers, we have just a brief bio. Sam Rasoul is a member of the Virginia House of Delegates representing the 38th District. He holds a Bachelor's of Business from Roanoke College and an MBA from Hawaii Pacific University. Before entering politics, he worked as a chief financial officer and a chief operating officer for a nonprofit healthcare firm. Jazakallah khair for coming on. And I want the audience to know a little bit more about your background, where you come from. What is the story of Delegate Rasoul and how he made it here?
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Appreciate your very robust MSA and you all doing this and bringing folks into the room to have a good conversation. Alhamdulillah, I was given the opportunity to be the first Muslim ever elected to anything in Virginia. I serve as a state representative. That's what they call it in Texas and many other places. And in the state legislature, get to chair the education committee, on the appropriations committee, get to work a lot of policy work, but most importantly, get to lead with my values. First and foremost, people see that all of us, all Americans, should have the ability to be able to serve at all levels, and of lumping able to being able to show folks that, as a Palestinian American, as a Muslim American, we're just like everyone else, trying to search for a brighter future, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, I mean, it looks like you've grown up to immigrant parents. Am I right? So how was that growing up? Like, how did it shape you to be who you are today and the policies that you make today?
Yeah, so I was born here. My parents are both from Palestine, and but where I was raised is in Appalachia. I'm in the Bible Belt of Virginia. So my election was particularly confusing for folks. How did a Muslim Palestinian Arab rock thrower become elected in the most unlikeliest of places? And alhamdulillah, I grew up in a convenience store. So people are like, "Where did you learn politics?" I went to school for business. I didn't go to school for political science. And I said, I learned it in a convenience store. Black, white, rich, poor. It didn't matter who came through the door. You learned to interact with people. You learned, of course, the good, bad, and ugly of everything that's going on in the community. And it gave us an opportunity to be able to serve. And for me, being a child of immigrants, I grew up during, of course, multiple wars in the Middle East, and so there was always a little bit of tension there. But it forced me, being an ultra minority in this area, to build bridges everywhere that I could, and certainly has made me into a better person.
Alhamdulillah. I think there's a lot to learn. I think our community has a lot to learn from this, in terms of building bridges and making their way into that sphere of being like in public office. So what is the importance of being in public office even as a Muslim? Like, what is the driving purpose that brought you here?
Yeah, for me, I first ran almost, believe it or not, almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago. I ran for office and I lost. And I never thought I'd run for office. But I woke up one day and said, how does this thing work? What's going on? This was on the tail end of the Iraq War and Afghanistan War under Bush meeting. And President Obama was running the first time at that time. So I started getting involved at that moment. And really, my big drive wasn't policy, though. It was, I wanted to change the way people talk to one another. I mean, the way we engage, and that that there was a better way of doing things. And looking back, people said, "How did you get elected in this area?" And I said, "SubhanAllah, that there's one thing that drives us in our faith, And we are only tested on and judged on one thing by our Creator, which is our intention. And it's interesting when you go and knock on all these doors. People, they don't understand all the policies, all the stuff that you're going to talk about, but we have a very deep sixth sense that we can quickly tell people's intention. It's like a safety mechanism inside of us. And so our niyyah, our intention, is something that, as an idealistic person myself, I wanted to prove that coming with the right intention, speaking the right way, that we could win people over a different way, as opposed to the politics of hatred and division. I kept on. I lost my first time running. I kept on and eventually won, and have held on to this belief that we can certainly build this common thread that people will gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm. SubhanAllah, yeah, people really can tell when you're sincere. People can really tell sincerity. But is it so? I mean, for the Muslim community, we keep hearing about it is so important to have civic engagement. It is so important to go vote. It is so important to understand who you're voting for and to be an informed voter. But we never hear it is we need somebody to vote for, right? And what is the importance of that for the Muslim community? What is that the important? Like, we really that is something that why would it be a necessity for the Muslim community?
Look, I can give you all of that answer. I'm going to do that in the second half of my answer. But the first half is look, to self actualize. Like, I don't want to say be selfish, but build power. I mean, you build power. That's what you want to do. And you're hoping that the people that are building the power are people of goodwill, are Muslims who want to serve. And that's what we're trying to do. What are the ways? It's not like voting is an end in and of itself. Right? It's not that we're accomplishing a big civic duty by voting. Voting is just one thing, and it's critically important. We'll come back to that. But what we're trying to do is to build power amongst the masses, so that way we can all be equally and fairly represented in a just way. So I'll give you an example. People are like, well, why should I go vote? Especially, let's say it's this random, like, I only vote in the presidential or this, that. How do campaigns even work? Let me tell you how exactly they work. They want to run a campaign. They need to decide what the issues are, what stance they're going to take, how they're going to talk about certain things. What do? They run a poll. They go and poll people. They say, oh, what do you think about this? What should this, that, and the other? Who do you think that they poll? They poll the people who vote. You have it in a database. Like, I know when I'm going to go and run a poll for my campaign this year, I'm going to say, all right, I want to know who's voting all the time, not like every once in a while. And so even if you go and I'm half joking, but go and vote, cast a blank ballot. Like, don't even vote for anybody if you want. Nobody knows who you voted for, but we know when you voted. And just by casting it in, you gain power. You do it every chance you get. You try to vote. In the database, it'll be like, oh my God, this person's always voting. I better ask them their opinion, how they care, what their thoughts are on the genocide, on the billions of dollars going to a genocidal regime, on the lack of affordable housing, on access to healthcare, what their specific thoughts are. Those are important to me now because I want to win the election. And so people will talk to you about and let them give you that lecture about your civic duty and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. This is what it comes down to. If we want to protect ourselves, protect our community, if we have something to say about the young man who was a green card holder, who was arrested at Colombia 2 days ago and is maybe having his rights defragged from him, if you want to have something to say about that, then claim our power. And voting is just one part of that. There's voting, there's the advocacy, there's activism, there's investing in campaigns and making those critical donations. There's going and running for office yourself. And so however you want to do it, go and claim your power.
So what is the main point? What is the main point? So a lot of people, they perceive it as negatively, like, oh, you have to go build power, and you're playing this game of building power. But it is something that has to be done for a good purpose, and it's something that you're within the system, and you're following whatever the system has to say, and like you're following the rules of the system. So what is the importance of us like building power? Is it more of a preventative method, like to prevent the Muslim community from some sort of harm, or is it, how's that? Where can that be directed? That power?
Well, what we are specifically describing is politics. And if anybody still has that question in their mind, they certainly have not been reading on our faith and on the history of Islam. I mean, look at Medina, and all of what we're describing is politics, and how Medina was put together as an interfaith city, meaning many people from all different backgrounds, and the documents, contracts, the negotiations, the give and take that Muhammad and Muslims and others of that time were trying to find ways to better themselves, better their community, build neighboring communities as well. This is the essence, number one, of how at the beginning Medina was built for sure. How number two, politics is any two people in a room. You have politics. You have to make decisions. And so you are, in fact, if you're not involved in it, you are not really in the, I believe, in the middle of your faith, because we're not helping to necessarily guide ourselves and our community in a good direction. But more practically speaking, very specific, when you're involved at the local level, you're ensuring that local ordinances, local laws that affect the school children, that affect curriculum, that impact the way people are treated. If you're looking for Eid off, that's all at a local level. At the state level, the state legislatures handle everything except for immigration and national defense. So if you care about education, if you have transportation issues, if you're a business person, and you want to make sure that they're being fair in the contracts through your state. And then lastly, at the federal government level, there's all kinds of policy that impacts us. And so if you want to better yourself, better your neighborhood, better your community as a whole, amongst all Americans, this is what you need to do is go and claim that power.
That's alhamdulillah. I think this is something central, I mean, to the community. It's something that we've been trying to understand. But now I want to go towards like shifting towards the college student now. So the college student who wants to be involved in politics, somebody in the University of Houston, for example. Can you guide us? Can you show them the story of how Delegate Rasoul made it to the way he is, and why, like, how is it that you went like from a business administration degree to being in the Virginia House of Delegates? What did that pathway look like, and what did that pathway look like?
Yeah, the number one struggle that we have is the most important one, which is jihad. It's our inner struggle. I can articulate the path, but all of that comes crumbling down if you're not spending, especially at a younger age, because you mentioned college students, building the core competencies, the core skills that you want to become as a leader. To be, raising your emotional intelligence, figuring out self-awareness. What are the social skills? What do I need to be doing to become more self-motivated and the self-control? I mean, these are all, and then they're the quote unquote Muslim equivalencies of, sabr and patience, and thinking through these components. Yeah, you can, think about politics as like House of Cards and going through wheeling and dealing, but if you're wanting to marry the service of politics with your faith, then what you want to be doing your whole life, but in particular at the youngest ages, because it's very foundational, is what do I need to be doing to build myself to be the leader that I want to be? And that begins with the everyday jihad, the everyday struggle that we're all trying to do. So the first thing was for me, from a younger age, I feel as though I had enough experiences that God tested me morally to be able to try to build a compass. That's number one. Number two, given my work experiences, growing up in a working class family that was on free lunch, we never were in destitute poverty, but we were always in need a little bit. Helped out of necessity grow and build relationships and build skills that were necessary. And then eventually that all kind of came together when it was time to run for office. Now, specifically in running, or if somebody's thinking about being involved, there's all the different pieces that people will tell you, but I can tell you in the end, me knocking on enough doors, getting to know people personally, building those relationships, that is what got me elected, and that's what has gotten me reelected. I'm in my sixth term, so 5 times. I'm up for reelection this year. So inshallah, another term. And inshallah. So keeping that in mind, this is the growth. That the first thing we want to focus on is, inshallah, Islam. How old are you?
I'm 21.
You're 21.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think, what is the leader that I want to be? Who is the leader I want to be at 26? What micro skills, little skills, pieces do I need to build over the next 3 years, 5 years, that by the time I'm 26, I'm running anything that I want, going for it. And that is the attitude to take.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like mapping it out. What would I need in the future? Understanding the skill set, like building the skill set that you need to manage hatta a position. Even if you get to a position, you need to be able to manage it and to be able to succeed and do it with ihsan at the end of the day. And you need the skill set to do it.
Yeah, and a big part of that, I think the most important part of building those inner skills is self-awareness, which is maybe the most critical thing of emotional intelligence, is being aware enough and being able to ask people around you and gather that information to be like, do I talk too much? Am I a good listener? Do I have enough empathy? When I'm talking, am I too intense? Am I too soft in my speech? Am I asking the right questions? Am I being a good, family member and friend? How selfish am I really? We all are selfish, but how selfish is too selfish? Being brave enough to explore all of that, answer all those questions, and build from that. That's going to be the most important thing you're doing right now.
You spoke a little bit about the marry the faith to the service. What does that thinking process look like? What's the intention look like over here?
For me, in my hardest times, it's been kind of some prayer, and no matter how much you prepare and what you do, there's a portion that's always out of your hands. Mm-hmm. And so you say, I work as hard as I can, have the right intention, ensure that my moral compass is as straight as possible, and the rest is outside of my hands. Now, sometimes that can be frustrating. There are many times where I feel like I could make a deal with someone, or if I didn't give the person all the information, it would put me at an advantage, or something. That's classic politics. But for me, I want to be really proud of what I'm representing and who I am, and that is difficult in this space. And it has made things more difficult on me in politics, for sure, actually. However, I feel much better about my service, about what I have to offer. And I have to have some faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my, is at my side, helping to ensure that there's the best possible outcome.
So you do the work that you can do, and then you're in a state of tawakkul. You hand it to Allah, and what is in Allah's affairs, not in your affairs. You trust Allah with it. Alhamdulillah, that's amazing to hear. But I was hoping to have an answer more like, when I go into office, my intention is for the sake of Allah, but how does that translate for the sake of Allah? Is it in terms of helping people? Is it that I see the companions of the Prophet ﷺ make policy? I saw Umar al-Khattab make certain policy and actually fix the people and help the population and do it in that sort and in that manner. And I want to do something similar? Or how does that translate for you?
So a couple of things. I love seeing the Palestinian protesters when they smile, because we say smile is sunnah, right? Okay, so every day, that attitude. When I go into the office, when I'm meeting people in the General Assembly building, no matter who they are, we remember that as best we can, and that positive vibe that's coming from us, that smile, that greeting. This is part of our service. That's number one. Number two, as you're building power, remember, that's the whole goal here, is to build power. But don't think of it in a bad way, right? It's building power to do good. If you're not building power to do good, someone else is building power to do bad. It's filling that space, maybe. And so here's a philosophy that helps me. Outside of my immediate family, like my brothers and sisters, my parents, my children, sometimes I push to help them even when they don't want the help, right? It's my obligation, my duty. They may not want the help, but I still need to help them. Outside of that, there's so many needs, so much service that is needed, that what we do is, well, I look for somebody who's taking us, there's a similar hadith, but if somebody's taking a step towards you, like they need something, you go running towards them. And practically speaking, when I see, I try not to waste my time. This is really important for college students. If you're sitting here trying to help your friend, I'm not talking about your brother, I'm saying your friend, you're trying to help them and they have no interest in taking your help, you're wasting your time. We don't have unlimited amounts of time, energy, resources. When the time and energy you're trying to help spend, sometimes helping somebody who doesn't want your help, you could have helped 10 people who do want your help. And this is a trade-off in life. And so philosophically, the service is when you came to me, subhanAllah, you came to me when I saw you at a convention. You came to me and said, we want to do this podcast, or we want to talk about these things. You took a step towards me. You're trying to help the Muslim Ummah. You're trying to help these college students, right? My obligation now is to come running. Yes. What can we do? When can we do it? Alhamdulillah, we got it. It's not to say, oh, these college students, they want to speak. What are we going to talk about? These little kids, I'm twice your age, It's like, oh, subhanAllah, here's somebody who wants to do some good, no matter how small or big it is. My obligation is to go running towards them. Now, multiply that times hundreds and hundreds of opportunities that I have. This is my service, and that's where my faith intersects.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing to hear, and that's something that somebody could set their intention with, going into the field that they want to go into. But you mentioned a little bit of Palestine, like mentioning Palestine even within the political sphere. Is it somebody somebody that has somebody that is building power, that is trying to build power, right, in a space where that is not something that is central, like whether what is happening overseas or foreign policy? Would it have to be smart to even speak about it? But then your silence would be kind of a little bit of a dilemma. So what does that look like? In that sense, especially in Virginia? I think it's very different.
Yeah, look, when you clear your intention and you pray on it, then what? Then you make the best decisions, right? So for me, I talk about the genocide every day. Now, before the genocide, when people ask me about Palestine, when they ask me about my faith, when they ask me about these things, of course I talked about it. Uh, but I didn't talk about it all the time because that's not my job. Like my job, I get paid. I get hired by the 86,000 people that I represent to take care of these things. It's like hiring an attorney or hiring somebody. And it would be a disservice if I wasn't taking care of my job. So what I do is, and especially during the genocide, is I try to work really hard to take care of my job and be vocal about the worst atrocity in modern history, us watching the filming of a genocide while we're funding it. It is not possible for me, especially as a Palestinian American, to sit idly by. In fact, last night I just hosted a film showing at the local cinema of No Other Land, Oscar award winning, because we do need to talk about it. However, when you see me talking about it, when you see me doing it, I want my service that is a step above my service, because I'm going to work hard on your housing issues, on protecting the environment, on making sure people are not discriminated against, on bringing economic development to my area, on protecting my schools as chairman of the education committee. I'm going to do all of that, and I'm going to work extra hard to make sure that I can also speak about things. So folks who are in these spaces, do your service. Do what you're supposed to be doing. You're not running for school board on Palestine. It doesn't make any sense, right? Be ready to share what's in your heart on Palestine if somebody asks you. But you need to figure out how to fix the schools, how to help those kids. That's your ultimate service to your faith and to Palestine, is by making sure you're doing your job first.
Alhamdulillah. Sometimes it's like a little bit more, hide it till then you could be able to speak about it. Don't, like, if they're asked, don't speak about it. Or then there's people that go on the other extreme and just speak about it. That speak about it all the time. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Look, unless you're a complete sellout, right, and you go and say, I'm ready to give me all the APAC money I can get, or unless you have a super clean profile, meaning you're a white dude and very bland and you never said anything wrong, the odds are against you. So there's no tiptoeing around anything. Now, be smart, be strategic. I'm not telling people, you heard me, I'm not telling people to go and run for school board on Palestine. It doesn't make any sense, right? Help your schools. That's what I want people to do. That's good service. But there's no trust the world. There's no hiding from who you are. And so embrace that and be strategic.
Okay, this is like, it's an amazing response. It's something that we all should be keeping in mind, especially when it comes to like serving others. There's a primary job that we do, and then we let our job represent us when we actually have other problems. It's almost like we're consistent, that we're helping each other, we're helping other people on all fronts, just like we're helping people locally, and they know that we're sincerely helping people. We're going to be helping people when we see something wrong, and this is a part of our deen. They know that when we see something evil, we're going to try to stop it with our hands, if not with our hands, with our words. If not, at least we condemn it with our hearts, according to the Prophet ﷺ. I want to shift it a little bit, and I want to ask about. I've done a little bit of research, and I see that you do have a little bit of background in healthcare, and you have a lot of stress on education when it comes to your policies. Is it something that your background formed? Is it more? Is somebody going to serve, or somebody running for public office, better for him to have experience in a certain field so they can understand and policy write better, or somebody just who has a general understanding of policy writing? And what does it look like in that sense?
Getting elected or serving. It's not just by electing. Some people are serving through appointments, for example, or they're serving through running important nonprofits. There's lots of different ways to serve. But 95% of it is organizing. 5% of it is ideas and better policy. If you're enamored by that, that's you're missing the point. Um, Knocking on those doors, or doing the community organizing, or going to the right events, and building the right network, building long-term relationships. This is what we need to be doing. I mean, I come full circle, and really realized my job as a community organizer.
Mm.
I found out that I could have a showing 72 hours ago. Excuse me, a little over 72 hours ago, 3.5 days ago. I found out I was able to do a showing at the Cinema of No Other Land and talk about Palestine and the apartheid and the occupation. And immediately when I saw that, I said, we're going to do it Sunday night, 3 days later, right? And it was a medium-sized theater, but it was packed, standing room only, right? We're organizing to get people in the room, not because they need to hear my thoughts, but because they need to be in the room to watch this film and then reflect. All right. My background's in business, it's in healthcare. I have and all these different pieces, and all of it will help you in lots of ways. The most important skill that you can have is to become a community organizer.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. I think that's amazing to hear, because a lot of people organize, a lot of people they get lost. Sometimes they don't see the value in organizing. What's the point of me joining a student organization or doing work with the Sun Prophet on the side? And there's a very career focused approach. Like I need to make it to this, and I need to make it to this. I need to work under the state representative, and I need to do this. But they're missing that organizing element and it builds their character, as you said. It builds their skill set as well.
Well, all of that is part of the building the repertoire, building the skills. I mean, working under a state rep, all those things, all these are important pieces that feed into what did we lead with? Building power. Look, if you're part of an organization or joining an organization or starting an initiative, and you're bringing folks together, and you're not utilizing that to build power, which most of the time it's not working. Like just organizing. I'll give you a silly example: is, hey, we're going to start this whole new organization on Palestine. We're going to get 100 people together, and their best idea is to create a large banner, right? And they crowdsourced, they came together, whatever. I don't know what they did, but they felt like they did something. And they didn't begin with, what do we need to be doing to build power? Even if it's a tiny bit of power. Most of the time, that's it. You're building just like a crumb at a time. But many times we do activities, we do things just to make us feel good. Like, oh, I checked the box, right? You don't need to check the box. You need to be thinking strategically. What am I going to do? How is this going to help my community build power so I can do good and help everyone in America?
Jazakallah khair. This was really beneficial. I want to ask if you have any message you want to communicate to the students, like before you end, before we end off here. Is there anything that is central to the Muslim college students, especially here in Texas?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the wonderful work that you all are doing. And look, if you think about what concentric circles are, it's like one circle and then a circle outside of it. I think about my activities, my service, my work, in these circles. And if you do that, it helps us in our managing our time and energy. The first circle is ourselves, and we're really trying to get that right, spiritually, mentally, and physically. All of that has to come together. You need to be taking care of the temple that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. You only got this one physical specimen. You got to take care of your mind emotionally. And then, of course, the spirituality helps to center it all. That's the first circle. The second circle is our family. However you define that. You have an obligation to your family and that duty. And then the third circle is the community. And when you keep those priorities in order, that has always helped me in trying to do the most good that I can. When I feel comfortable and like you asked me about, being and serving in politics. Well, I feel comfortable every day when I wake up. For the most part, I feel good about the service. And then, alhamdulillah, when I have the opportunity, which is now most of the time, I can then serve the folks around us. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to give us the strength to serve and to in this blessed month of Ramadan. That alhamdulillah is already a third over almost. It's gone by very quick already. That we find ways to not just build ourselves, but Islam doing what you're doing, which was right after I got elected. I realized it's not as important as what Sam Rasoul does and accomplishes. It's how many Sam Rasouls, Samira, Salam Rasouls am I going to bring along with me? So I need to bring hundreds along. Inshallah, can't wait to be able to work on your campaign one day.
Inshallah, maybe one day, perhaps. May Allah bless you. May Allah give you the strength. May Allah keep you steadfast. May Allah protect you and your family and allow you to continue serving in the best way and with ihsan. Jazakallah khair. Really appreciate your time here.
Islam